We've covered some big issues in this course, and now that we're wrapping up, I'd like to take a step back, as we've done in this module, on our course summary and just say, okay, here's some stuff that I hope you know now. Here's some stuff that I hope you have an appreciation of. Um, Being a leader is not an easy thing. It takes a application of mind and a presence of mind that doesn't come naturally to people. And I think we've seen and described behaviorally, I think, that leadership challenges are actually woven into the fabric of organizations. They are literally inescapable. And in order to prevail as a leader, you really need to understand what these are, what the challenges are. These include low levels of involvement among employees, and that's not no involvement. We've talked about this issue of partial involvement, the information that your average employee has available. Just think about how different the Quad Graphics employees were who were talking about reading the Wall Street Journal. Are those your employees? We have incomplete information for making decisions. We have goal incongruence among decision makers. And we're dealing with time pressures that characterize managerial work. They're inescapable. They're a fact of life for people who are in managerial roles. These problems are pervasive, and they're the reason that so many individuals in management roles fail as leaders. I'm sure you've seen it over and over and over again, where the job owns the person, they don't really own the job. A skilled leader finds ways to work within these constraints and to overcome the limitation that the constraints pose. And what are the tool set? It's the savvy understanding of influence and organizational processes to generate performance. That's the big differentiator between a leader and a manager. We've gone through and given you a lot of analytic tools. They're behavioral analytic tools. They seek to understand why behaviors happen. What are the behaviors? Why? Let's try and get some sense and assume that things are sensible at some level. To say, well, they just don't make sense gets us nowhere. And so the behavioral analysis is a way for us to start to understand how to get decisions made and how to get them implemented. And in doing this, effective leaders are good at social process, they're good at influence, and they know how to build coalitions to magnify their influence and get stuff done. Finally, as we've talked about a little bit in this last module, alluded to when we talked about trust, a leader's most important asset is credibility. This should not be compromised. This means not promising what you cannot deliver and delivering on what you promise. And the hardest thing is do not promise what you cannot deliver. A leader is credible as someone employees want to work for and colleagues want to work with. I hope you can make this your brand. Finally, on the further reading, and I've given you a lot of things that may be of interest to you for different reasons, but in terms of things that I think can really make a difference for you as a leader, Rosabeth Moss Kanter's book, Men and Women of the Corporation, is a classic. It won many major awards. It is based on her observations and study of several different firms. There's some really kind of path-breaking insights on this. It does have a focus on some of the challenges that women face, kind of gender barriers. But in the disclosure of those and articulation of those, we also start to see a lot about how organizations work. And there's a lot in there for any leader that's very meaty in how to make a difference in organization. Another book that's done by a journalist, Tracy Kidder, is The Soul of a New Machine. It's a book about an innovation group in a mini computer company, and they're the group of people that got left behind when the R&D spun off and moved to North Carolina to the Research Triangle. So the people who were left behind and did not get picked to go into R&D unit decided that they were going to produce the next generation of machine for this company, Minicomputer. They were going to do it even though they weren't supposed to do it. And all of the things that go on, and how they select people and how they manage their teams and how they ultimately prevail and produce the next generation of machine while the R&D unit still hasn't managed to get its act together is it's just an interesting story, but there's also a lot of interesting facts about organizational life. And the person who leads this is an amazing individual in terms of what they're able to pull off. And ultimately, this is one of those ask for forgiveness instead of permission, and it works out. It was taking a tremendous risk. I mean, it paid off for everyone, but just the whole process of how this happened, I think, it's interesting. It tells us a lot about what goes on in organizations, how they operate, and again illuminates these leadership challenges that we've talked about throughout the semester. So amongst all the readings, if you're going to just grab a couple of things off of the list, and many of them I understand are just kind of general interest, maybe even not general interest, but these are a couple of books that I think will really inform how you look at leadership and very much inform your your development as you continue through the MBA program. So they are a couple of things that I can highly recommend. With this course summary, I'm really signing off on the video side of the course. We'll have other interactions through the discussion board. But I hope you've gotten value out of this. I know, because I've had the privilege of being in executive leadership positions, I know this stuff works. It made a huge difference for me. My capacity to understand the things we've talked about in the course gave me a capacity to see things that most other people do not see. They don't even know they're going on. And that capacity really made a difference for me. It made me, I think, a very effective leader, and it made me a successful leader. And I hope the same for you as well. Good luck in your future endeavors.